Shalom, first and foremost, all praise and glory is unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Hachakodash, double honor to our apostles, the bishops, the elders of the great millstone. Greetings, salutations, blessings, much love unto you, hopeful elect. Shalom unto you, your brother Shaquat from the Las Vegas church. Just going to bring a quick MOTB update, okay? The Prelude, all right? We can see where this is all going if you're in the spirit, okay? You got to be in the Holy Spirit of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Okay, if you can see what's going on, all right. So I'll start with this one at the top. Do it this way. So the New York Post said ICE expands use of ankle monitors, aiming to track more than 4.5 million migrants roaming streets. Okay, so it makes you ask. So at the bottom, a brother had asked. Yes, ICE uses ankle monitors. XAI, right? Is AI overview. Says, yes, ICE uses ankle monitors as part of its Alternatives to Detention program to monitor non-detained individuals. What does that mean? Well, let me finish reading it, then I'll get into that. It says, including those who may be considered illegal aliens who are awaiting resolution of their immigration cases. And you start thinking, like, what will they do there? Like, why are they doing that? Why would they? Because they treat you just like roaches, man. Okay? This man is wiser than Daniel. He treats you like roaches. And I'm curious to see what it's going to say in this article. But they treat you like roaches. Like, they'll leave out some bait. They'll catch you, leave out bait. You'll take the bait back to the hive or the colony and share it with everybody else. What are you sharing? Your location. Now they know spots to hit. Okay, why? Because a lot of, I'm using the terms they use, migrants, you jakes, you so-called Northern Kingdom jakes, because you guys frequent in the same situations, because you can only maneuver through certain avenues in the first place. Okay? So you learn to maneuver, and you teach others to maneuver that same kind of way because it was working. Now ICE is learning where your hotspots are, where you're gathering at. And I'm not trying to be funny or make any type of joke about this when I say this, but you go by the Home Depot and you don't see any Jake out there no more. You go by the U-Hauls, you don't see Jake out there anymore. You know? And now it made me think of, matter of fact, let me Google this for you. Bear with me. Made me think of this. A Day Without a Mexican. Okay. And it was a movie from 2004, comedy fantasy. But it wasn't as fantasy as you think. It was a mockumentary, right? It said, and I remember hearing about this when it came out. It says, in this controversial mockumentary, all California-based Mexicans who represent a third of the state's population inexplicably disappear, and before long, the lack of all these Latino maids, construction workers, policemen, teachers, etc., lead to a social, political, and economic disaster which threatens the whole concept of the Californian dream. Okay? And so we're seeing what it's like, because we're also seeing people complaining since these raids have happened. People are complaining, hey man, I don't have any. Let me get the articles, man. But this was a film. Let's see this. What streaming service had Tubi? So free Tubi, Prime, Roku. Check that out. I might actually go back and watch that. Okay, what is it about? And a controversial mockumentary is. That's giving me that. Let's see. But this man is now pulling it off. He's trying to really remove people and it's criminals, this and that, right? But let me get to it. Okay, fair use, fair use, fair use. All right, let's go into the comments though. But let me read it real quick. It says, fear of ICE raids causing farm worker shortage in Washington. Okay. And that's not just Washington, that's all over the country. Wow. Slavery is apparently alive and well in Washington. Wow. Oh, this must be how Southern plantation owners felt at the end of the Civil War. And this is how that went. You wonder why the Civil War popped off? Because the North took, man, you guys got to really get into these definitions and these really figuring out what happened. If you're a so-called Negro, and I'm just using this as an example, or any American Negro, American Latino, Native American, okay, if you're any of those, and you live here and you believe in America, and you believe what you were taught in the history books, you need to go back and really look into what really went on. Because something just as simple as the Emancipation Proclamation, a lot of our people don't understand. Oh, that's when the slaves were freed. But when you really get into what it's about, which I'm going to ask AI, but I already asked it another question, I'll go back. Okay? When you really look at that, you realize it wasn't the end of slavery. It was the end of private ownership of slaves. And it became a corporate ownership of slaves. I'm going to actually ask AI that, but let's see what a couple of these comments said. I'm not Hispanic, but as a teenager, I worked in the apple orchards in Washington State thinning apples. It says my father's family had 9 children and they were poor. The entire family, well, okay, whatever. Nobody want to hear that. No shit's given. This is what you voted for. Hey, true. Yep, government workers can do field work. Laid off government. Wow, these people are something else. Let's go to that AI. Wow. Okay, so I asked it, was the Emancipation Proclamation the transfer of slaves from private owners to corporate ownership? And I should have asked it something else first, but, I'm trying to cut to the chase here. The Emancipation Proclamation issued, let me get rid of that so we can see more of the screen. It says offer, oh, wait, there we go. I moved. The Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Abraham Lincoln on January the 1st, 1863 was not officially or legally a transfer of slaves from private owners to corporate ownership. Rather, it was a wartime executive order that declared, quote, all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are and henceforth shall be free. Now, this is no different than what they're doing now with the original article, with these ankle bracelets. Okay, what the MOT to the B is doing. Okay? You gotta see it in a sense of what it is. It didn't say that they're gonna force you to, they're gonna hold you at gunpoint and make you worship the image of the beast. That's not what it says. Which I get it now. Okay, Revelation chapter 13, starting up at verse 15 says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. And this is part of this technocracy with this ankle bracelets, is how they're giving life unto the image of the beast with the technology, with the science, okay, to completely control all or monitor and control all the people, okay. And now science and AI is the way that they're going to do it. Now they can condense things. Okay, we see Palantir and all these social media giants and AI giants are in high military positions because it's going to have some military application to it, okay. Which military is going to rule over the civilians, right? It says that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. It's going to cause you to worship the image of the beast. If not, you're going to die. It's going to say 16, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. He causeth all. These are the cause of what they're doing is going to make you have to tap into this, to be a part of this, to vow your allegiance by getting it implanted into you. Okay? That no man might buy or sell. So he doesn't have, so it's like calling somebody free, but you're now a slave to the system because you have to earn a living. You have to join the workforce. You can't grow your own food. You can't you don't have any way to make your own money. You never got your 40 acres and a mule. So you have to join their industrial complex, okay, to build up their system, to pay your bills, then you, like the video I saw, and I just seen it again recently and I didn't save it. But there was a guy who was a salesman. He was selling a stove or a refrigerator or something. in like the 1800s. You're like, why would we have to sell all that fancy stuff you got going on when we don't need any of it? He goes, no, because you need it. He said, yeah, but if we need that, we're going to need your electricity also. And then now that we got the convenience of having the refrigerator or the stove or whatever, now we got the convenience of having electricity and light. Now we got to pay for that, and now we're in debt to you, or we're a slave to you to have to pay that off. And then we got to get these jobs. Now we're in debt to you, come to you to get the jobs. So we're just really slaves to you now. We're not really free. Well, it frees you up to do other things. Frees me up to do what? To work a job for you is what it ends up becoming. And I didn't do enough voice transfer over to break it down. But for you that have seen it or understand what I'm saying, the convenience freed them up to now be workers in their system. That's the same thing with the image of the beast. You have to go to them for the want of all things. Says it in the curses of the scriptures. Deuteronomy 28 chapter. So you got to do that to go to them. This is no different than what they're trying to get you to do here. To get into this MOT to the B, the system causeth all that they might that no man might buy or sell. If you can't buy, if you can't have any transactions, how are you supposed to pay for your goods? Pay for a home? Without transaction, what do you have? You can't hustle. You have to do all your transactions through their system, and to be a part of their system, you got to get implanted. Okay? This is a prelude to that. Okay? This is leading you to those things, the monitoring and being okay with the monitoring, but as well as leading them back to the hive, to the other workers, to the other addresses that they can go and raid. Okay? So this is just going to become the new norm, the raids, but look at what it's doing. It's breaking down the system. Okay? When you don't go work in the field, let me finish this, but when you don't go work in the field, what does it end up doing? The food isn't going to get to the factories. The factories aren't going to process it and put it on the shelves for the people, which causes a food famine. It's orchestrated, okay? More than just like the crops going out. Now there's crops, but they're going sour and whatnot. They're spoiling in the field, okay? Now I had a video. I'm not going to play that video. There was another one that might be an article. Might have a video to it. I'm going to try to get it. But you see the same system of idea coming into place. And I hope you people can see that it's leading right to it. So the more you depend on the system, the more you're going to depend on giving your allegiance to the beast to be a part of the system. Okay, you become a slave to the system. That's why I put this emancipation thing together. So going back to the Emancipation Proclamation, okay, but it says that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states, the southern states, right, are and henceforth shall be free. Okay, that makes it, we're free. Yeah, in word only, but not in life. In real life, you're not worried. Matter of fact, the scriptures say, Baruch chapter 3, verse 8, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, still slaves, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments. You're subject to payments. You can't buy or sell. You got to make these transactions to be in society. According to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord Yahweh our God. Okay? So we're subject to these payments. We're subject to tap into that, to be a part of it. This is where it's leading to. So no different than the slaves and no different than these ICE raids. So as they take people away, this is what's causing the system to collapse, to force the people deeper into the system. Because now, your local grocery store don't have it no more. Your farmer's market don't have it no more. Now you gotta go to the big brand chains, the big corporations to get it. Tell me why everybody was locked down in 2020, through all those years. All these stores were locked down except the big corporation owned by Sam Wall. Okay? That was the one that didn't miss a beat. That they had the line set up. They had to walk on this side 6 feet away. All that was knocked out in a week or two. in all the stores. And they really didn't miss a beat. The hours changed, but they were able to let people in all the time. Still, they were still getting shipments. All of that was still happening. Okay? They had exemption, but then small businesses had to shut down and couldn't reopen. No matter how you complied to it, they had to shut down. We see what's happening. Okay? Hopefully you brothers and sisters can see what's happening as well. All right? So it says, key points to understand. It applied only to states in active rebellion against the Union, Confederate states, not to the border states or Union-controlled areas in the South. It did not compensate slave owners, nor did it formally nationalize the enslaved individuals. Okay? 3/5 of a man still stands. It says it did not immediately free all slaves, but it changed the legal status of millions and paved the way for the 13th Amendment. 13th Amendment says, so why do some claim it was a transfer to corporate ownership? Some alternative or conspiratorial interpretations argue that Emancipation Proclamation, or later the 13th Amendment, shifted control of African Americans from private plantation owners to the federal government or corporate system through the 14th Amendment citizenship, ratified in 1868, which defined national citizenship, the creation of corporate legal persons, and the rise of the prison industrial complex. You see it? It says, the use of 13th Amendment loopholes which outlaw slavery except as a punishment for crime to justify convict leasing and mass incarceration. Now, who fills up the jails? And you can say, well, the Negro, Latino, and Native Americans fill up the jail cells. But because they do more crime. Okay, let's roll with that. They do more crime. They get caught doing more crime. All right? Not that they do more, they get caught doing more, right? That's what you go to jail, who gets caught and who don't. And the legal system doesn't represent you the same way. All of that. Let's skip over all of that. But why do Jake go to crime? Because the conditions, they don't make a living wage. They live below the poverty line. You start looking deeper into it, and this is what you see. Okay? This is what you see. So you can go all this deep into it, but at the end of the day, that MOT to the B is where they're pushing society, and they have no problem icing you Jakes up out this country. Okay? It says these interpretations are not reflected in the actual text or official intent of the Emancipation Proclamation. However, there is a historical basis for concern about convict leasing systems post-Civil War, where former slaves were arrested on minor charges and leased to corporations or farms. 12 years a slave. He's supposed to be free. The evolution of systemic racism through Jim Crow laws and discriminatory economic systems, including modern-day mass incarceration and economic disenfranchisement. Okay? Conclusion. No, the Emancipation Proclamation was not legally a transfer from private to corporate ownership, but some later developments, especially involving labor exploitation, which that's what the slavery was based upon, labor, right? And free to cheap labor. It wasn't free but cheap. Through the penal system, do resemble a shift from private slavery to systemic control by the state and corporate entities. Okay? These are separate historical processes that are often connected in critical and Afrocentric scholarship to analyze how freedom was limited or redefined after slavery. Okay, so the answer was really yes. If you're a Jake, Negro, Latino, Native American, you can see that this is what the system has put you into indirectly. And that's why the answer has to be a direct no, but indirectly, yes. Okay, let's look this up real quick. Okay, to fully understand how the Emancipation Proclamation, 13th Amendment, and 14th Amendment relate, and why some interpret them as a transfer of control from private to public or corporate hands, we need to explore each one clearly in context. So what I'm really showing you is a Hegelian dialectic. Okay, control from above, control from below. Okay, and also problem, reaction, solution. Okay, problem, reaction, solution. We create a problem, the people react to it, and we have the solution ready. So as these things, and we know with Willie Lynch, this just has it all ready. And I may even add that. It says we did it. We did it. What it did, declared all enslaved peoples in Confederate-held territories to be free. Limitations did not apply to Union-loyal states with slavery like Kentucky or Maryland, and it wasn't a constitutional amendment, just a wartime executive order. Listen up. Changed the moral tone of the Civil War and paved the way for formal abolition. 13th Amendment, ratified in 1865. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Right? That's this jail, which is a form of slavery. Indeed, it's just changing the way it's packaged. Oh, you got caught doing a crime. Now we're gonna put you back in slavery. What was you doing? I was picking cotton before. Well, we don't need any more cotton picked. We got the cotton gin. So what are we gonna do now? We need you breaking rocks. So now we're gonna lock you up, and because you were stealing, you were hungry. So what? You were stealing. We're gonna have you break rocks in jail, and we don't. Now we got a prison, bars, stone, steel. Okay, to execute it. We're all this now. Seems that I pivoted away from the point of this, but if you're following, you can see how this is a similar system that they're building technologically now. That you have to be involved in it. That they're just getting rid of you and shipping you out, and to another country. They're shipping you up out of this country. Okay, they're grabbing you and you're taking you up out of this country. But if you don't, you can stay, but you're gonna still walk around and be in the system. Okay? If you're willing to put this thing on, and we're going to monitor everything you do. You thinking like, oh, thank you for letting me do this, but you can't do nothing no more. All your hustle's gone. You can't be in places you ain't supposed to be. And if there's anybody, multiple people showing up in these congregative areas, we're going to go check those areas out and see what happens and see how many other people we can now grab up. Probably your family and friends, to ship them out as well. Okay, and if we deem anything you're doing criminally active, we're gonna get rid of you. Anyway, abolish legal slavery, but with the crucial loophole, slavery is still legal as punishment for crime. Okay, we pretty much read about that in the proclamation. Yep, it say the same things we read. You can look at that. Result a system where states and private companies profited from forced black labor, a new form of slavery under state and corporate partnership. 14th Amendment, all persons born and naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Right? And we heard Trump saying that's not necessarily true. That wasn't the intent of it. He's starting to say now. Established federal citizenship and guaranteed equal protection under the law. But it also shifted citizenship from state to federal level, making people subjects, quote unquote, of the U.S. government in a new legal sense. The corporate government of America. Right? And I think the name had changed. But anyway, it says created a legal foundation for corporate personhood. Corporations began using the 14th Amendment to claim legal rights in court of the people. Putting it all together, interpretations and concerns. While legally these amendments aimed to abolish slavery and protect civil rights, many scholars and critical thinkers argue control shifted, not eliminated, right? That's what we brought up. It says from private slaveholders to state systems, corporate prison labor, and federal authority. You see? The system being built, and now the system is even evolving further. Okay? And this is just a prelude leading you further into the MOT to the B, to the full technological restraints, if you will, for lack of a better term. Okay? Post-slavery, black people were still controlled through black codes, Jim Crow laws, prison labor, sharecropping, surveillance and policing. Okay? The technological, now I'm gonna move it forward anyway when I ask the next question. Corporate personhood and 14th Amendment. Ironically, the 14th Amendment was used more by corporations than freed slaves in the 19th century, right? Companies gained constitutional protections, leading to arguments that a new form of corporate rule emerged while black population remained economically marginalized. So you really didn't get into a better situation. You never got the 40 acres and the mule that you could work or sell or whatever you was going to do with it, F it off, or whatever you chose to do with it to make a life for yourself. Okay? You never got that. So you were forced into the system to survive. What do you think we're going into now? With the money inflating daily, okay? And all these things you can't afford anymore. Okay? And not that crime is this or that, but they built up this whole California thing where people are smashing and grabbing and they're not doing nothing to stop it. Now they're kind of doing something to stop it. Well, now it's making it to where they let it go for so long that it pissed the minds of the people off. When you see it, and I'm seeing it more frequently now. Grocery stores are being smashed and grabbed. Not even smashed, but people are grabbing and running out of grocery stores. It's not just these regular retail stores. People stealing food. Now, I think today it was alcohol and like snacks and shit. And it was Jake, so-called Negroes. Okay? That got caught up. I mean, they finally got the product back and then they ran off. But that's what it's amounting to now. Okay? And okay, well, they shouldn't have been buying alcohol. Well, it ain't that they can't buy the alcohol. They can't afford to buy the alcohol because they're putting the little money they got toward whatever other necessity, rent and whatever else. Lights, bills, water. Okay? So indirectly again. All right? The Most High is seeing all the intents of the heart of this devil, man, and it's going to be rewarded. Anyway, to everybody's getting the intent of the heart. Matter of fact, real quick, just because I mentioned that real quick. Okay, 2 Corinthians 5:10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Hamashiach Yahushua. When he appears, cracking the clouds coming down out of the chariots in the sky. Okay? And now is judging the world. That everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he had done, whether it be good or bad. Everybody's going to get judged. He's going to judge the whole world on whatever it was that you did, what was in your spirit and your intent. Okay? Whether it was good or bad according to the Heavenly Father's judgment. Okay? So that goes for you heathens and Edomites as well. Everybody's getting judged. As well as you Jakes, you guys are getting judged as well. As well as the elect. The elect will get judged with a good grade. Okay? 2/3 with a bad grade. The heathen with bad grades. What have you really been doing out here? What was your real intent that you were really doing out here? Okay? The grading system is the Heavenly Father's. He gets to see what he wants to do with it. Okay? Reading on a little bit more, it says, the Emancipation Proclamation, 13th Amendment, and the 14th Amendment didn't transfer slaves from private to corporate hands in name, but in practice, the state and corporations collaborated to exploit labor through legal loopholes. Okay? This has led to some to argue that slavery was never fully abolished. It was transformed and institutionalized in new ways. Slavery didn't end, it evolved. If you like, I can show you examples of how this system worked in specific states or companies like U.S. Steel or Southern Railroads. Okay, and that was back then. I'm not going to go into that. I had something else that I was going to say. Let me get a quick scripture. Psalm 64, I'll start at verse 2. It says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. Okay, they write these words, they come up with these ideas on how to entrap Jake, how to keep the system revolving and evolving. Okay, from brick and mortar slavery all the way up to today where it's technological slavery, from the chain all the way to the chip. Okay, it says that they may shoot in secret at the perfect, suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. Which that was my point up there. I got one more on that. Isaiah 10:1, woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees. 13th and 14th Amendments, right? And that right grievance. So while you're distracted, thinking the slaves are now free, they didn't realize that all the people are now under corporate rule. Okay, with the same laws. This is what's happening now. As he passes certain things, big, beautiful law, we're going to watch that other things written in there are going to become more painful than the tax breaks and cuts that everybody's looking for. That, oh, no tax on tips and all. Okay. And no, not on overtime either. Okay, sounds good. But watch the other dangerous language that's in these different executive orders and whatnot that he's passing. Okay? This is how it works. It says, woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees and that right grievousness which they have prescribed. Let's look up the word prescribed. Prescribed of a medical practitioner, advise or authorize the use of medicine or treatment for someone, especially in writing. Recommend a substance or action as something beneficial. Here we go. State authoritatively or a rule that an action or procedure should be carried out. Okay? Right before. Direct in writing. Confined within bounds. Okay? That sounds like locked away, like borders, like a law, like jail, like slavery, like prison. Okay? Stipulate, dictate. Okay? Control over something. And when we get into the word government, let's look at it. Government, the definition says the governing body of a nation, state, or community. Grammar, the relation between a governed and a governed word, right? System in which, right? That's what we think it all means. But when you get down to what it means, see, they ain't got it right there. Let's get it. Okay? In the Edom online, government, the noun, act of governing or ruling, system by which a thing is governed, especially by state, right? Control, direction, administration. They had this modern French gouvernement, I don't know how to say it in French, the governor, to steer, be at the helm of, govern, rule, command, direct, from Latin gubernare, to direct, rule, guide, govern, originally to steer, to pilot, see, govern. The meaning, the governing power is given place is from 1702. Now let's see if they got govern. All right. Let's see if they have both. It says, because it's a compound word. To rule with authority, to steer at the helm of, command, direct, to direct, rule, guide, govern, right? So it's control. It's a form of control. Let's see what else we got. Let me see. Let me ask. All right. So here, some sources suggest the connection between ment and the Latin word for mind, mens, right? But this is not the origin of the suffix in the English word government. Okay. But we know that that's where it goes back to. We know govern is to steer or control. So that's why we break it down that way in the Latin. Okay. So we're putting all this together to show you that they prescribed mind control for you to control, where just the natural use of survival, you're going to do what's necessary. If you can't eat unless you work in this system, you got to work in this system to eat. You got to eat to live. So you now are controlled. They forced you into that thing. You can't just walk by somebody's apple tree or walk down the orchard and pick a few off and eat every day or every once in a while. You can't go and barter no more and say, hey, give me a few of these, fruit from your orchard. If I pick, this amount, I can get a few out. Or can I just have a few or whatever? That's being taken away now. They've even changed the part where the farmers take it, well, everything that you pluck off, man, that's mine. That's money out of my pocket. It's such a dog eat dog mentality that's going on in society now. All right. Anyway, verse 2 in Isaiah the 10th chapter says, to turn aside the needy from judgment by making them whole and balanced again, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey and that they may rob the fatherless. Okay. This is how they get it. They break up the home. Okay. They take the man out, which taking the man away makes you a widow. He doesn't naturally have to be dead. Okay? And then the children, they don't have any spiritual guidance from the father, that's his role, naturally, because he's the connection through the Most High when you go through 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter. So that's taking out the home now. So now now they can be manipulated. Now they can make emotional decisions. And they play on your mind. There's a science behind advertising and what people buy. People know that money's short, and they still go in the grocery store and shop and pay for boxes and plastic wrappings and processed food that's got all kinds of additives and preservatives and things that are cancer causing. Instead, people still buy those things. Watching these commercials, they still purchase these things. All right, showing you that it's a form of mind control on these people. Well, this all time. Let me add one more Chat GPT. Here we go. It's okay. Wow, that's pretty good. Now, what I asked was, is this system, talking about the proclamation, first and second, 13th and 14th Amendments, okay? Is this system leading to what we see in a technocracy today? Yes, many critical thinkers, scholars, and social commentators argue that the evolution of slavery into state corporate systems post 13th and 14th Amendments helped lay the foundation for the technocratic systems we're beginning to see today. Okay, let's break it down. From slavery to technopoly, yeah. The progression, slavery era, pre-1965, people were privately owned as property, mostly for agricultural profit. Control was physical and localized. Post 13th Amendment, slavery was technically abolished, but replaced with legal incarceration loopholes. Black Americans were disproportionately criminalized and leased out as labor. State systems and private corporations begin to merge interests. 14th Amendment and corporate power. Corporations used the 14th Amendment to gain legal personhood, ownership over the person. This allowed them to accumulate massive rights and influence, more than many individuals. the rise of the corporate state began, where companies and government work hand in hand. Okay? Industrial into digital surveillance. As time went on, economic control moved from labor to data. The working class was managed through debt, wage control, and media influence. And how do you wage control? Yeah, I'll pay you more, but I'll inflate the money, and then also everything that you're purchasing with your money will be inflated. When you can buy a 3-bedroom house in the 40s or the 50s or whatever for less than $50,000, okay, that same 3-bedroom house will run you $400,000. You know, or if it's literally the same house today, may run you $200,000 to $300,000 depending on where it's at. Okay, which is crazy. Okay. It says today, technology, AI, social media, biometrics, predictive policing, etc., is used to monitor, shape, and control behavior. So you think these people on that have these monitors, you think that they aren't behaving a certain way? They're not controlled to behave a certain way now? That they're not consciously thinking like, okay, I better not do this. I better make sure of that. You've got to be. I better be on my best behavior. Okay, they've got to be. And anybody they're connected to that's not monitored already or deported already is going to lead them back to it. Or going to lead them, they're going to be like, how long can you people withstand connecting back to your families and friends that you're connected to that are here illegally, or that are migrants or whatever you want to call them? Okay? You see, the system of control is breaking it all down. And they're using the technology to do the dirty work, to do the heavy lifting. Okay, there's plenty more on this. It says, today, people control behavior. Okay, it says, what is technocracy? A technocracy is a system of governance or control where decision making is driven by technical experts and data rather than public input or elected officials. Okay, because they have to figure out what they're trying to get this outcome. When they run these simulations, they run it through computer systems that play it out, and this is how they figure out how to get to the end. Okay, they're not doing it by just talking it through and figuring it out. They actually let the computer system figure it out. If we want to do this, how do we get it from this situation today? Same thing you can ask AI. The same way I just asked ChatGPT to do it, they can do it on the other end for world economic global agendas, right? Anyway, it says, in today's world that looks like governments and corporations using algorithms to make decisions. People's freedoms and opportunities shaped by digital footprints, credit scores, social media, AI profiling. Yeah, me asking, and brothers and sisters asking these types of questions, man, it's going to be outlawed, especially if you have anti-small headwear in there, Anyway, surveillance capitalism, okay, corporations profit off tracking and shaping your behavior. Well, that's why the cookies, they named it something that people all enjoy. Cookies, the cookies are your biggest downfall. That's why if I say, yeah, I like the new Jordan 11 that's coming out, watch I start getting those showing up, ads showing up in my as suggested in my videos now, right? Connection between post-slavery system. All right, it says historical system, modern technical equivalent, right? It says forced labor camps, prison industrial complex, sharecropping, predatory lending and debt cycles, black codes, predictive policing biased AI. It says corporate personhood, tech monopolies with global power, human control through physical chains, control through digital systems, data, and algorithms. Okay? The modern slave, quote unquote, may not be in chains, but in digital systems they can't escape. And we know that's true because we see so many people that can't cut off the doom scrolling. People were getting cut off of social media and they were losing their mind because they were enslaved to want it. It hits like a drug, like endorphins, like an addiction. Okay? You look at people that are addicted, you see a slave to the substance or whatever it may be. Okay? Key observation, incarceration is still racialized. African Americans are incarcerated at a 5 times the rate of whites. Data is the new currency, and poor or marginalized communities have little control over theirs. Everything your search engine, history, your IP address, all those things get shared and bought and paid and traded for. Okay? And they capitalize on it. Technocratic systems often serve elite and corporate interests, not the public. Okay? If you don't know who the elites are, the elite banking families, they go by different club names, Illuminati, Skull and Bones, all these different names, so on and so forth. Okay, do your research, but no. If you don't believe in Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, you're not going to be protected from none of this. If you do, this is your best chance to truly believe. This is your best chance to get through it. For without faith, it cannot please the Most High. So you got to, get into these things in faith. If you're going to waver and not do the research, not have the wisdom about it to warn our people about what's coming, hey, the Most High is not going to protect you. It says, conclusion, yes, the same legal loopholes, power structures, and racial economic controls that follow emancipation have evolved into a technocratic system today. Instead of change, the tools are surveillance, incarceration, algorithms, digital dependency, corporate state fusion. Okay? These systems do not need to call it slavery, but the effect of control, labor extraction, and limited freedom are still very real, especially for marginalized groups. Would you like to explore this in relation to smart cities, facial recognition, or corporate government partnerships like Amazon and the police, or Google and the health data and the WHO? Okay? Right? You see it? Okay? So I'm not going to go further. You can go further with that, but it told you what it's connected to. We've done videos on these things. Let's go all the way back and get to that article. And look, they still look all this, and you people will still be caught up in the Diddy Cassie Ventura deal. Right? Roaming the streets. It said, this is by the New York Post, by the way. Anyway, it says, most migrants walking into ICE offices for check-ins are now leaving with ankle monitors or other tracking devices as the Trump administration aims to keep better tabs on up to 4.5 million likely to be deported, sources told the Post. The migrants who crossed the border illegally and used to appear for their regular appointments with ICE once a year while going through the U.S. court system have been turning up less and less for their scheduled check-ins, fearing the administration's mass deportation agenda, sources say. There is a new sheriff in town, and we're not doing things that were being done over the last 4 years. Yeah, it's longer than that. The agency wants accountability, a source said. You see the guy right there. Anyway, it says, the migrants required to report to their local ICE offices do not have deportation orders yet, but are expected to get the boot for various reasons. They are still expected in immigration court as their cases wind through the system. All right. The check-ins, and I think the word system means pit, something like that. It says the check-ins are there to ensure they're showing up to immigration court and not committing crimes. So that's changing your behavioral situations. And because, well, somebody may call a crime, the next person may not. Anyway, while the new tracking push, with the new tracking push, ICE will move to send out its agents quickly to try to arrest anyone. Let me read it again. ICE will move to send out its agents quickly to try to arrest anyone who cuts off their ankle monitor and potentially charge them with the crime, which wasn't the case under the Biden administration, sources said. Wow. During the Biden administration, people absconded and no one went to look for them. Now that is supposed to change. The sources said thousands of ankle monitors are being shipped throughout the U.S. for ICE to massively expand the plan, which is known as the Intensive Supervision Appearance Program, in which the Biden administration chooses to use less and less. Yeah, this is as of last month, ICE was using devices to track 183,000 migrants. About 18,000 were wearing ankle monitors, while the rest were tracked with wrist-worn devices and phone application. You see how the technocracy is growing more and more? Okay? They got it with it on right there. Over the jeans. I don't know how he got it over the jeans. That's crazy. Oh, that's crazy. Anyway, each participant wearing the ankle monitor costs taxpayers roughly $2.75 per day, compared to the daily rate of $152 that it costs to hold each person in detention, according to a source. Oh, so they're saving us money. ICE is trying to put as many ankle monitors as possible on migrants before they need to move less restrictive tracking technology, such as a phone app or wristwatch, sources said. Migrants will be required to check in more frequently when they're given an ankle monitor, typically every 4, 8, or 12 weeks. Okay? Hey, this is crazy. A source said the need is there to keep migrants accounted for, since they are absconding and not wanting to report to ICE anymore. As the Trump administration hunts down illegal migrants roaming the country. It will also free up ICE agents needed for Trump's mass deportation raids by having migrants check in with BI Inc. I don't know what that is. A government contractor that makes and supplies the technology. The contractor will also help migrants to obtain travel documents if they choose to self-deport or return home. All right, and there you go. Okay. So it's showing you that technology is now what they're using to control it. This is taking us right to the MOT to the B. This is the image of the beast spoken of that they're getting you to worship, that they're getting you into that lifestyle of living through technology, whether through the phone, through the wrist, through the ankle monitor, and eventually through the implant. Okay, so we're just always reporting on these things for you people, man, trying to get you to understand that this is coming and this is what it is. All right, this is what it is. So I'm gonna end it off there. You know, you got to put your heart, mind, body, and soul into your Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, man. If you're not focusing on the righteous works of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, you're gonna get caught up in this. You're gonna get caught up in this, and you're not gonna have any protection either way, whether you don't get caught up in it or you do get caught up in it. Okay, the faith of the elect through Yahweh Bashim Yahushua will benefit you and get you through all of these things, man. Will protect you. Okay? And there's plenty of scriptures on that. But I'm going to end it right here. Lord willing, that'll find just kind of a news break showing you the prelude, man. And I even tied it all the way in to the second amendment, the 13th and 14th amendments. All right? So Lord willing, that'll find giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Rachak Wadash, until the next one. Shalom.